Is good to be back after a week's sabbatical. Went to the beautiful state of Ohio with my girlfriend. Went to Cleveland, back and better than ever, though. Thanks to these guys, though, for holding down the show last week. Did a very nice job. And this Tackling Unfrosted, a movie that I did watch despite not reviewing on this show. I had to suffer through that. I told you guys like a couple of days before, or I think the day before, we hadn't even seen Unfrosted yet, but I told you guys it could have been worse. I could have made you review Tarot because that thing sucked. That thing sucked. That thing was good for one thing, which is right now being atop my worst list of 2024, excuse me. That is the only thing that movie was good for. That thing sucked.
We could have
And
reviewed The Fall Guy.
yeah, we really could have. And you know what? I'm not going to lie, seeing that movie last weekend, I was like, we probably should have reviewed this because this was a hell of a lot better than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it. I feel like every year we get one like stellar blockbuster, and that really feels like the one this year. Not perfect, not like I wouldn't say it's as good as like Top Gun Maverick. I wouldn't say it's as good as Mad Max Fury Road. Who knows? Maybe Furiosa will be that one, and I was premature on the Fall Guy. Could very well be, but
You could say Fall Guy was a surprise of the summer.
it
Even though
was.
it looked good from the start. Like I was like, oh, that looks like fun. But like I've heard like so many people say, no, it's like actually better than expected.
The only thing about the Fall Guy, and this is not a criticism I levied against it, I gave the thing 3.5 stars. I didn't levy this criticism against it, but they play that they
I
play
was
that
made for
Kiss
loving you.
song. They play that. No, they play that a lot, and I didn't really have a problem with that, even though they played like 8 different versions of it. I really wanted though, and especially after seeing those trailers so much, I was like, they could have found room for any way you want it in here. Like they had that song in the trailer so much in
Yeah.
any way you want it, and like I don't know if they didn't want to give away "I Was Made for Loving You" being the song, but like I was just like I kept waiting for Journey to pop up there. I really wanted to hear Journey watching that movie, and it never happened. But at any rate, though, I'm back. Great to be back. Got Joe Viso, Dominic Guanzon joining me once again for Sleepless with Steve tonight. We're reviewing a movie I purposely delayed a week because I wanted to talk about it with you guys selfishly. It is probably so far my favorite movie of 2024. I'm going to start by saying
Oh
that.
wow. Okay.
Yeah, I like this one quite a bit. So we'll be talking about Late Night with the Devil today. Very excited, was pumped from the first time I saw the trailer. I was set and ready to go for this movie, and it did not disappoint, mostly. We'll get into that. But we will chat Late Night with the Devil today. That's our big review. And then we're also going to be talking about how streaming's beginning to look an awful lot like cable, especially with the news that started breaking last week and has kind of been spiraling now. We've been really keeping our thumb on the streaming wars ever since the radio days here. And it's looking like there's more to talk about even too with Disney Plus, Max, and Hulu bundling now into sort of a package subscription service in a way yet. Not merging, but bundling together. It's beginning to look an awful lot like cable. It's beginning to look a hell of a lot like cable now. And we're going to tackle that coming up here very soon. But really good to be back, guys. Yeah, we are right now in the middle of May, smack dab in the middle of the month of May. It's moving right along really quickly. And I know things are busy on both of your ends. So I appreciate you making the time. Joe, start with you. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. School's been going all right. I had some homework to do, and no, I'm messing with you guys. I graduated. I'm done with it. You're never going to hear me opening up with that ever again. Yeah, I mean, for me, since the last time we streamed last Wednesday, not much other than just getting my master's degree. Oh wait, no, I'm a psychotic person, and I went on a 5K run the following day for some reason. I got absolutely not drunk, but I did get a good, good tipsy vibe going the night I got my
Good
degree.
tipsy hustle.
Yeah, these guys got some drunk texts from me and everything. I was drunk texting a lot of people because I was just so happy. Let me tell you something. Sunny D vodka seltzers, not bad. Had about like 4 or 5 of them that night, and they were really good. Very sugary, so if you're ready for that, they have a bit of a sugar taste to them, or just sweetness, I should say. But other than that, it's just been the only thing that's been busy right now is work. If you haven't noticed, I've kind of fully now rebranded Sleepless with Steve. Not like a whole new name and everything, but we were overdue for a new look from the please stand by screen to the intermission screen, which you'll see, and the ending screen. And even right now, the hosting screen. I mean, like, things have changed. Dom has a different Instagram handle. Letterbox became an app that Steve and I like religiously use, so I figured to throw that on there too. And it was just like, we just need some new color. And so I decided to go with blue. Blue just kind of attracted me. And like that's kind of what I've been doing lately is just thinking of cool ideas.
I can relate.
Yeah. Yeah. Maybe it's Dom's polo. Just over the years, just subliminally has been making me want to do more blue stuff. So yeah, that's what I've been doing lately. It's just getting that degree, running, and kind of updating the look of the show. And I will probably continue to play around with it some more. And there's even, Dom and I have been trying to work this out for years, but I was just so busy with school. And Dom, who will still be busy with events, because I'm sure he's going to talk about it. He was just talking about it in the green room. Both of us were just so busy on different schedules. We never had time to figure out a different way to not use Zoom and just use a different way to communicate with one another where we don't have to take the Zoom sponsored intermission. But enough about me. I've been talking for a while. I want to pass it off to Dom.
Yeah, like I said, it's getting very busy, but that's a-okay because honestly, I'm getting to enjoy life a little bit more. I cooked for myself for the first time. Not for the first time, but I cooked chicken breast. live and online. It's Sleepless with Steve and the Movie Book Club with your host, Steve Pulaski.
Back and better than ever, it's Sleepless with Steve, live on YouTube on this Wednesday evening, wherever you may be, however you may be listening. Working our way towards the long Memorial Day weekend. Hopefully get to take advantage of it in some way, shape, or form. That's kind of what we're, I think all three of us collectively are counting down the days for. A little bit of time off of work, which is always nice. Friends and family, always nice as well. So looking forward to a really good 3-day weekend here. A lot of movies coming out this weekend too. We got three new wide releases, I believe, this weekend. Next week. This is kind of like the unofficial start to the summer movie season. Furiosa, Mad Max Saga, one of my most anticipated movies of the year. Cannot wait to chat about that next week. The movie we're going to be talking about today, though, however, it's been out for a couple of weeks. Catherine and I were in Cleveland when it came out, so it was a little bit late for us seeing it. So just caught this last weekend. You guys are going to have to correct me or put a coin in a jar or something, because for whatever fucking reason, I keep calling Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes Escape from the Planet of the Apes. I don't know why. Escape from the Planet of the Apes was one of the original movies that I've seen. But for whatever reason, I want to call this movie Escape from the Planet of the Apes. And I
Escape
did
from New
that.
York.
I don't know why I want to do it. And I did it. So it's so bad. It's so bad that when I sent the title and the scroll for you, for Joe to put on YouTube, I noticed it. And it was funny because Catherine, she's like, what are you guys talking about today? I said Escape from the Planet of the Apes. She's like, you mean Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes? And I go, shit, I probably screwed up the title and the scroll. And sure enough, I did. I don't know what it is, but correct me or let it roll or put a coin in a jar every time I call Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes Escape from the Planet of the Apes. It's a totally different, like, I mean, it's a verb instead of a noun, and it's a totally different preposition. I don't know what the hell's wrong with me. But anyway, so that's that. Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes is our review today, not the 1971 movie. And then we're also going to be talking about a little slight on news, but we're going to be talking about the Friday the 13th franchise getting a complete makeover / new universe, because why make one good movie when you can screw up 6? So we're going to talk about that coming up to end the show. I guarantee you Dom's got some thoughts, even though he's not. I guess I wouldn't peg you as a Friday the 13th fan. Would I be correct in my assumption?
No, not really.
Indeed, but I know you got some thoughts on it, so we will chat on that coming up here, second half of the show. First things first, Joe's all ready to go with that background, too, with a little Donkey Kong action for the background here for the Planet of the Apes review. How are you, Joe? How's life post-graduation?
So this is week 2 post-graduation. I was just telling the guys in the green room, time is going by so slowly for me right now. I don't know what to do with my free time. I thought I would have stuff to do. I originally, my plans were to play softball this summer, but me and my friends, we missed the deadline to register, so we have to wait till the fall now to start our softball league, which will be nice because then it'll be softball. Football season will start too, and I can start my fantasy football group that I always do, so that will keep me busy. But in terms of summer, yeah, man, I have no idea like what to do with my free time right now, and I have more free time than I anticipate. I'm like, okay, I guess I can go work out like often. I can go do this more often. And it hasn't taken up that much time that I thought it would. So it's like, I'm honestly like kind of like playing with my thumbs thinking, like, should I get back into Twitch streaming again like I did during the pandemic and just stream me playing a few video games? Should I go back onto YouTube and make YouTube videos again? So I don't know. I might do that whole thing because after doing this whole like, soft rebranding with Sleepless with Steve, it made me go, shit, like I kind of miss like making stuff like this. And coming up with like fun ways to like stream on the internet. I'm like, maybe I want to do it like on the side again, like I did during the pandemic. But we'll see where that leads. But in the meantime, Dom, how are you doing?
I'm doing all right, actually. But Joe, do you have any friends in the city?
I used to, and then they moved to like Oklahoma, which is like a very big,
Oh,
yeah. I know some people in the city. I'm not friends with them. They're kind of like I am friends with a friend that we're mutual friends with someone, I should just say. There we go. But I don't know anybody specifically, no.
okay. Yeah. Well, either way, uh, it, it's gonna be a crazy summer in Chicago. Both great, I'm sure, with all the nice weather and all that cool stuff happening, and also not more tumultuous with the Democratic National Convention happening in the city.
Oh
So if you want
yeah.
to check out some history, relive 1960, relive the trial of the Chicago Seven, that'll be happening this summer. But anyway, yeah, this is I I don't know if I said this, but like it really feels like I was talking to you guys literally yesterday. Just because it's gone so fast. I forget if I literally said that in the green room or on the
It
air,
was in
but
the green room. You're good.
okay, cool. But yeah, a lot of events happening at work, but also trying to. I don't even have that many friends, but like it's it's so hard to schedule that shit. It's so hard to schedule that shit. It's like, yeah, no, school really did like force schedule things for you, and then you just kind of had to make friends because you were just stuck with the same group of people every day, at the same times. But no, as an adult, you really have to make your way out and like even e- even with just a handful, it amazes me. And I know I'm 30 years old and I'm like making this observation now, but either way, it's gonna be a good summer. I'll make the most of it.
Yeah, we were very busy. We got quite a few concerts. Once again, too, over in Eastern Iowa, all throughout the area and stuff like that. We got Creed tickets. We got Lainey Wilson tickets. Got Mickey Dolenz of the Monkees tickets this weekend too. So it's already starting this weekend for us concert season.
Did you get it? Like, did you take advantage of that Live Nation sale that was happening like a few weeks back? Is that how you got that
No,
ticket?
I
Oh,
did.
okay.
No, I didn't. These are the two shows I just mentioned, Creed and Lainey Wilson. They're at the county fair. They're at the Jones County Fair, which is a
Mm,
couple counties over. And then the other fairs or the other concerts that are at the casino out here, I cover. So we have press passes.
okay.
So I cover for the station and stuff like that. So I get in general and stuff. I hate putting up with that shit. And it's funny because I had to buy the Creed and Lainey Wilson tickets. And I was like, God, I feel bad for the average person. That's when I realized, like, because we don't have any connection really with Jones County Fair, with the station and everything. I was like, God, this sucks. The ticket buying process sucks. You know what I mean? Because I wasn't a big concert, or I never went to too many concerts. But now that they're out here and like the state, or my station covers them, now I get into them and stuff like that. I'm like, hell yeah, we're gonna go to every one. I don't really know half the bands that are performing this year, but I'm like, fuck it, it's free. It's something to do on a Saturday night or a Friday night.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I would. The reason why I asked that is because I took advantage of it. I bought like 3 concert tickets, like 2, 3 weeks ago with my friends because they were like dirt cheap. They were like $50 for like certain artists, like Pitbull. I was like, you know what? I'm not that big of a Pitbull fan. I'll go see him for $40. And then there was like other ones like Avril Lavigne for like $25, and I was like, okay, why not? Yeah,
$25. Wow.
exactly. Yeah, I was like,
That's not bad.
yeah, I'll go see Avril
She's worth
Lavigne.
way more than Pitbull. What the hell?
Well, it's because okay,
Is you
Pitbull's in Chicago, Lavigne's gonna be in Wisconsin. So like,
okay?
I have to make like a whole trip to go see Lavigne, and maybe that's why Avril Lavigne.
Mm.
Maybe that's why it's cheaper because in Wisconsin compared to Chicago.
Is Pitbull with T-Pain? Because I remember seeing
Yes.
signage. I saw signage in Cleveland that he was coming to Cleveland with T-Pain, so I assumed it was the same tour.
Yeah, yeah. So honestly, it was both
Oh,
of
he's
them.
worth $40 alone.
Yeah, I was gonna
T-Pain.
say, I'm like, you know what? Hey, I'll go see T Pain, and it's just like, yeah, Pitbull's just like a bonus. It's like, okay, yeah, sure. You
You
got
know,
Pitbull right
Mis-
behind you, man. Mr. Worldwide over here on Steve's background.
yeah, just because they missed him, Mr. Worldwide. Jesus Christ. All right, we will start with Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes here, though. Brand new Apes movie. First one in a long time. It's been 7 years since War for the Planet of the Apes came out. And they kind of we didn't tackle War for the Planet of the Apes on Sleepless, did we? I don't think we did.
No, it was
I
the
don't think so
summer.
either.
It was during the summer when I was about to come onto the show. So
That's
if,
right.
If you and Dom didn't cover it, then I don't think we did.
Did
I
we
don't
do
think I
we
wa-
did do War, I feel like, right?
Did we do War? Okay,
I
we
don't know.
might.
This
'Cause
might be
that
our
was
first Apes
pre-Joe.
review.
That was pre-Joe. Because I know I didn't watch the movies until before War came out. I watched all of them. All of them. Going back to the original series, I did a whole marathon review of all of them, including Conquest of the Planet of the Apes, which is probably my favorite title of the entire series. This is the 10th movie and the 4th installment in the reboot series. And it's kind of funny because this is kind of the reboot within the reboot series. Because War for the Planet of the Apes really wrapped up Caesar's arc of the story, and I thought was probably the best of the three, in a lot of ways. And Rise and Dawn both have a lot of great things in them, and I like both of those movies. But I thought War really doubled down on a lot of the poignancy of it, and obviously the finality of Caesar and everything. So I was curious to see what direction they were going to take Kingdom, and it's kind of underwhelmed in a way, but I'm not hopeless. This movie takes place 300 years after the events of war. It's after the death of Caesar, and we follow a new group of chimps, most notably Noah, who is navigating this world that's run by Proximus Caesar. And Proximus Caesar is like the antithesis villain leader of the apes. He took everything that Caesar stood for and basically corrupted it, and is now ruling with an iron fist over this community. One of the there's several characters, including May, played by Freya Allen, who's the human scavenger that they meet along the way. There's also Raka, played by Peter Macon, who's I liked him a lot. He's a wise old sort of orangutan character who talks to Noah about Caesar, the original Caesar. And there's a nice little, it's kind of like a retroactive thing if you haven't seen the previous movies. It's kind of like a 20-minute expository about what Caesar stood for and things like that. There's other characters and things in the movie too. There's a collection of other characters. The William H. Macy's in it for a cup of coffee as well, who plays a human who's like forced to teach Proximus like everything he knows about the human world and things like that.
I was about to say the dude from Shameless finally found it good.
Yeah, I was just gonna say he looks a lot like his character in Shameless here too. But there are some things to like about this movie. It's not all for naught, but I will say though that I think this movie, and I'll get into the more nitty gritty after I want to hear what you guys have to say. I think this movie really needs, if it's going to kickstart its own trilogy, I think it needs more. It needs a stronger sequel. It needs a sequel that sort of elaborates more on these characters. I think gives them more to do
It
and
needs a
more to
Dune 2
stay
sequel.
more. Yes. Because it's kind of like Dune Part 1, the kind of the same way I took Dune Part 1, and I like Dune Part 1 more, but it's kind of the same way where it's like the foundation is all right. It's a little shaky. It's a little like anti pathos in a way. There's a lack of pathos here, I guess I would say, that didn't hit as hard as Caesar. And I mean, I guess if you go back and think about it, like after Rise, I liked Rise. Thought Rise is better than this one. I liked Rise, but Rise was really made then by the continuation of Dawn and then War. So that's kind of what I'm expecting. I almost wonder if retroactively I'll like this one more based on what's going to come after. But you got to judge it on a singular work now. I'm a little bit more mixed than I want it to be. We'll go Joe then Dom for general thoughts on Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. I got it right.
There you go. Yeah, didn't have to put a coin in the jar. Yeah. So the original reboot trilogy, I almost said the original movies. The reboot trilogy that we got with Andy Serkis playing Caesar, and it was directed by, at least two of them were directed by Matthew Reeves, with Rise being directed by Drew, what's his name? I'm sorry, Rupert Wyatt, not Drew. Rupert Wyatt. That was like one of my favorite sci-fi trilogies coming out during like the 2010s. I thought they were all very solid movies. I looked forward to each one of them. And I always just thought, hey, like, these are also some of the most gorgeous looking like CGI movies as well. Like, they really take this motion capture to like a whole new level. Especially Serkis, who, you know, has had experience with that with stuff like the Lord of the Rings movies and even the Adventures of Tintin, where that was, you know, they used motion capture to help animate the characters for that. This one, I gotta say, I'm in the same boat as Steve, as in like, I don't know if I like it more than any of the reboot movies. However, I did have a great time with this movie. And that's not to say I don't have criticisms with it. I have one big criticism that, like, for the most part, I was like, oh man, this is going to be this rating for me. But every so often something would happen and I would just be like, oh, now it's going down half a star. But I will say this, Wes Bell, who comes in here and he has to like kind of take on like the challenge of like continuing on these movies, especially after Matt Reeves took them over and did a great job with them as well. Um, I gotta say, man, he did a really good job at selling this world post Caesar. I love the look of the world. We see so many apocalypse movies where like it looks like The Last of Us, or it looks like hell, it may look like Furiosa next week, where it's desert with like Fallout looking cities where they're like made of scrap and everything. I really dug the look of like this wasteland, this apocalypse look, where it's just trees overgrowing and everything. It just looked beautiful at times to like look at on screen. And along with that as well, these movies, each movie, I swear to God, gets more and more realistic looking with these apes. Like with the character Raka, I legit sat there for about 5 minutes just thinking, no, like there's no way they actually got an orangutan to like just like be on set and talk to the camera. This is not CGI. I for sure was like just sitting there going, this is like the best looking thing I've ever seen in these movies. Even Noah at times looks like there's a point like with his fur. The fur looks incredible in this movie, and there's a point where he has like ash covering him after an explosion looks off, and the way it just shrugs off his fur and everything, it's just so realistic looking that I was just blown away from the look. There's also when we get to about the halfway point in this movie, because it takes a while for this character to show up, but Proximus Caesar, who's played by Kevin Durant, he is such a fun villain for me. I had a great time watching him. He's a very fun, charismatic villain for these movies, which we didn't get. Most of the time we had Koba with the second one, who was just the basically the opposite of Caesar, and we had Woody Harrelson with the last one, who was just total military jarhead, just like sent on killing apes. So this is like a nice change of pace, and Kevin Durant is so good as Proximus Caesar that like I was just having so much fun watching him just kind of chew up the scenery with his performance, and also loving what he's doing as a villain, which is twisting Caesar's words and using them to like kind of just get the masses to follow him and making him believe in like oh yeah, I know what Caesar like believed in, this is what Caesar wanted and everything. And that's just good science fiction, of course, taking something that you could totally relate to that's happening today. For me, I genuinely think that this is like it has like, I didn't say like the Doom 1 comparison for nothing, because that's how I felt about it as well. Like I was just like, hey, this is a solid start to a trilogy, but I do agree that like it's gonna need something better to come along. And I'll end it with this. My one criticism is I think this movie has really bad pacing issues. We can get more into that later, but I want to pass it off to Don before I go any further.
Yeah, echoing what Joe said, the Apes franchise, specifically rather the reboot franchise series, is like one of the most understated and under talked about like masterpieces of the last like decade. It's actually incredible how consistently really good those movies are. I haven't done like a rewatch of those three films, the Andy Serkis films, if you will, because he plays the Caesar. But like, dude, I remember each time I'm like, this is really, really good.
Yeah.
And like not too many people are talking. I know like for a second, like I think the Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, that was the one where I think Caesar's on a horse wielding
Koba, he's got two machine
an
guns.
automatic yeah, while like the like that was about as wild as it got. I mean, there were some wild ass scenes in the other movies, but like that, just the ridiculousness of that poster, I think was really funny to me. But no, like tonally, it's like, and like visually, the effects, and like I feel like Andy Serkis is like a master. He's like the bellwether of what's our CGI for creatures that are on all fours. Like, where are we with that? Let's look at it. What the latest Andy Serkis movie is, and you'll pretty much get that there. So it's, and like this, the fourth movie now, Kingdom, is the amp the ante is definitely upped, especially coming from that trilogy. So here it does. I do agree with Joe that it falls a little flat in comparison, but on its own merits, I very much still enjoyed
Yeah.
it, just because it's just really good sci-fi.
Yeah.
It's so reflective. of it says a lot about humanity, despite it being about monkeys, right? It says a lot about civilization. It says a lot about society, right? And it is amazing how they're consistently able to make these same messages after about like a dozen of these freaking movies.
And you don't get
And
tired of it because
still,
it's just done that good.
yeah, it's just done that good. And it's like this is profound. I don't know how this is still managing to be profound. We get the and you could say it's like, oh, there's no merchandising of it. There's no like Marvel-esque like three television series in between the films. There's that
It's
argument
true.
to be had, but at
It's
the end of
contained.
the right, exactly. It's not really in the zeitgeist or the culture all that much. So when it shows up every like 3 to 5 years, it's like, oh hell yeah. I'm down for this. It goes
That's
in, gets his money, and it's like so there is that strategy where it's like, hey, let's just make a good movie, back off for a bit, and then we'll come back to it. Very much not like what Jason looks like it's going to do, but that's for the second story. Anyway, for the movie itself, um, Joe, it's so funny you mentioned Fallout. Did you watch did you play New Vegas?
I did. I love New Vegas.
Dude, watching
One
this
of my
movie, I'm like,
favorites.
is this just gonna be the plot of Fallout New Vegas? Where it's
I
like, yeah, we've got like Caesar being an authoritarian ruler. Meanwhile, like there's the
the
ideals of like the
literally
followers of
the
the
Caesar's
apocalypse.
Legion.
Yeah, it's like we just need now NCR badass Rangers, as the opposing force, but
Which might
we
be.
didn't get
Well,
that.
actually, no. That's a spoiler. Never mind.
Yeah, yeah. Either way, I'll stop there with that train of thought. But it really is just, well, the thing that impressed me, the most important thing here is the writing. You can say that about any movie, but particularly with an apes movie, it's about what it says. It's a reflection of what those buzzwords I said before, but it is what it is: humanity, society, civilization, et cetera, et cetera. And what is it saying there? And yeah, this is like the legacy of what Caesar left behind and how that like it's so conscious. This is a true sequel, and that's one thing I really liked about it. It's it's not rebooting the reboot. It is like, hey, even I don't do they state I forget. Did they state how long it was? No, but at least like we can say like 50 years after the fact, like several generations. Let's say that
It's
several
300. If
generations
you're looking for
after.
the actual thing, it's 300 years later.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, Jesus
Yeah,
Christ.
that's
Okay,
about
yeah.
that's about it's never concretized, but it's been reported it's about 300 years after Caesar.
I mean, that still makes sense, but wow. Okay. Oh, damn, this really is Fallout. But yeah, dude. No, no, no. This, and I'll end it by saying that this is truly like continuing that train of thought
Mhm.
from before, and it just goes to show that uh history kind of repeats itself, but it never ends, right? There was that big thing in post Cold War history of like the end of history, and I don't have time to go into that. But the point is that no, things will still be happening, and even though we have this trend of having like democratic free market countries, things are still very much happening, and maybe that theory isn't quite so much into play. We're seeing that now in real life, and it's so interesting that it's kind of being reflected to a degree in this movie, and I just thought that was really, really cool.
You make a wonderful point about how these movies aren't commercialized in the way that a lot of other franchises are. I mean, you got to think too. There's been 10 Planet of the Apes movies in totality, Kingdom being the 10th. And it would be wrong to say that they have not left a cultural footprint because they clearly have. If they didn't leave some sort of cultural footprint, they would not continue to make money and continue to make sequels every X amount of years. But and now we could say this because for years, for like 12 years, there was no sequel to bounce off, but we kept questioning Avatar's cultural footprint, myself included, prominently on this show. But that was kind of put to bed when The Way of Water did what it did.
Mhm.
And it was like, okay, so every couple of years, hopefully a couple of years, hopefully we don't have to wait 12 more years for Avatar 3. But going beyond that, like, oh, okay, there is room, and this is like it's kind of refreshing that there's room for a franchise that can start, give you a sequel, then we can all enjoy it. It's well made, it makes a lot of money, and then it goes dormant for a couple of years,
Yeah.
and then it comes back, and then it once again is big and feels big. And
it
there's
doesn't
something to
have
be
to
said
be
about
on
that.
your mind like every month. That's amazing.
I
I'm like, this is really
That
cool
you
how
don't
it
get
can just,
fatigued from it.
yeah.
yeah, well, you absolutely 100%.
I think it's great too that the writer Josh Friedman, he was given so much time to write the script for this and really pan out what he wants to do with these next few movies. Because it was like he wrote it during COVID and they didn't shoot it until 2022. And like he just took his time from then, from 2020 till 2022, just being like, hey, this is where I want to go with the next set of movies and everything. And I think it's like whether like you might be in Steve's camp where it's like it's a how he might be feeling about it, or me and Don, which I think we're more on the same level. I think all three of us can agree it's like, but this does seem like a solid foundation here. Like it's like there is something here. Obviously, taking his time and actually building this universe out further is paying off, and hopefully it pays off even more when we get these later sequels, and hopefully they're improved on this one.
You said something that I think hit the nail on the head here too, Joe. There this movie I think is undone in some ways by its pacing issues.
Yeah.
I think the first hour of this movie is ponderous, is slow, is slow to a fault. And it doesn't need like a 10-minute action sequence, but it needs a little bit more life. There's a lot of downtime in this movie where where it's kind of like twofold. I don't feel like a lot essential is happening. And then come time for the climax, I don't feel more connected to it because I still feel like there's meat on the bone with these characters. Or there's not enough meat on the bone with these characters. Yeah. And that's kind of where I sit. The second hour is better than the first.
Yeah.
And it really, what it does is it leads to a really good climax that finds all the ingredients that this franchise is known for mixing together.
Yeah.
It's got excitement, it's got suspense, it's got the emotional resonance, and it's got that great finale.
I was on the edge of my seat from the moment they were just sneaking around to the very end where they have to like run. And I'm like, dude, this is actually intense. I'm actually like impressed.
I was being very generous in retrospective. Like, okay, this is a Planet of the Apes. This is the legacy of the first of those three movies from the past decade. That's like high art. That's saying something. It's profound. It takes its time. So you know what? For this first hour, this half hour, whatever, it's all right. It's gonna pick up its pace eventually. It needs room to breathe, and I'm so thankful when movies do that. And on that level, I am thankful. At the same time, I completely agree with you guys. In retrospect, I'm like this needed a little bit of a kick in the ass.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, it really needed that, and I think I'm not asking for like more clever dialogue or some shit, but it was getting a little Avatar there, and that's derogatory. It's getting a little Avatar. Dude, I'm so glad you brought up Avatar because I was not thinking about that. It's like this is accomplishing what Avatar absolutely cannot do, which is get a movie out in time and also be relevant. I don't know. Anyway, but that's beside the point. Joe, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say I had to go see this movie twice. And Steve, I don't know if you saw my original thing on Letterboxd.
You really have a lot of time on your hands. This is a long ass movie. 2.5 hours.
I mean, it did help. I went to go see it Thursday night before I graduated, but that night I saw it. Dude, I had the worst cell phone disruption ever. I had a kid sitting next to me with her phone like this, sitting sideways, blasting the screen into my face because her parents brought her to go, like a 7-year-old daughter. They brought her to go see Planet of the Apes, and she was on TikTok the entire time listening on her headphones. I had to get up twice, go down like 3 or 4 seats, and be like, "Hey, can you tell your daughter to put her phone away, or like if she, just not be on it, because I'm trying to watch the movie and the screen is literally on the left side of my face like this." And after the third time she did it, I went to go tell an employee. They had to escort them out the theater. I got a dirty look from the mom, but hey, that's on you, okay? I shit you not.
And you
right
have
after that,
the worst theater.
I know, yeah. I shit you not. Right after that, some guy gets a notification on Hinge in front of me, and it's a girl he matched with, and now he's texting her, and I just screamed out, "Can you please put your phone away?" And I saw him do like a little jump, and then he put it away. So I was distracted that much that like I felt like, oh damn, I like was kind of in and out of the movie, only to go back and watch it again. And throughout that first hour, I'm like, okay, yes, those people weren't helping, but yeah, this first hour, I'm kind of losing interest in and out. I gain interest when Raka's introduced because I think Noah's a great character, but Noah's by himself for so long in this movie that it's like if it's not really a human I can see expressing these emotions, and I'm not saying the CGI can't express these emotions, but there's some connection when I'm watching like Tom Hanks stranded on
He
an
doesn't
island.
really he doesn't really like some mild spoilers for the first half. It's like he doesn't really go through. I mean, he goes through a lot. Don't get me
Yeah,
wrong with the inciting incident, right? Um, of the story itself. But once he's like journeying on his own, he's got his mission, right? He's got his mission, and it's like he's on his own. It's like not really much happens between him and meeting Raka,
yeah, there's really
and
not. It
and
takes
No.
I
it
feel like
takes
I'm not saying this movie should be longer. Maybe condense some other parts in, and then it's like maybe add something in between. I don't know. I don't know.
yeah.
I don't want to rewrite.
No, I get you. I completely agree. I just felt like, damn, I'm like, if we can just, if Rocco was introduced earlier, or if like, there was at least like, because it's a village full of people, but like, he's one of the few, he's the one only actually that doesn't get captured by Proximus's other apes. Um, if he had someone to bounce off of at least throughout like that first 20-minute hump, because we're introduced to like his friends and everything, and you're thinking, oh, okay, these are gonna be the people we're gonna be hanging out with, and then they go away, and then you're just with Noah, and Noah's not a bad character, and I like him more as the movie went on, but it just
It's a
took
bit
a
empty
while.
though.
Yeah, he just takes a while to get going because he doesn't have anybody to bounce off of, and it's not until Raka. And for the most part, Raka, yeah, like Steve's saying, he's giving you like this journey into and kind of catching up.
Is a mentor.
Yeah, he kind of catching you up to speed and everything, and he gives a great performance too. Um, Once you get to Proximus, that's when I feel like this movie is taking off and firing on all cylinders. Because I think Kevin Durant is great, but then I also think the conversations between Proximus and Noah, especially when he brings up, you see that human girl over there, man, she gonna betray you, man. Like you're gonna trust her over me. Like when you get into those,
How did we feel about May? How did we feel about May in this movie?
I liked her more as the movie went on, and I really like what they're teasing with her character by the end of this. I was like, okay, I'm digging where
She
you're
had
going
an
with this.
air she had an air of mystery that I was a little 50-50 on, but by the end, and certainly where it culminated, I was like, okay, you know what? I'm in.
Yeah.
I'm in with this. This is
Where that
actually kind of
character
cool.
ends, I was like, oh, I'm actually looking forward to what you're doing
It
with this
it
trilogy.
was
The, the,
it
the,
was a high risk and high reward maneuver that the writer did
Yeah.
there.
the
Which
the
kudos.
destination. Sorry, go on.
No. Just kudos to the. Oh my god, I just had it. I'm sorry. The writer
The
for this one,
writers, Josh
uh,
Friedman.
Josh Friedman. Thank you. Yes, who wrote War of the Worlds 2005? Steven Spielberg. I really love that movie, even though that's got flaws in writing, but I still love it. Yeah, I'm like that was a high risk, high reward maneuver he did because it's like I was thinking, okay, I'm putting a lot of trust in you because she's implying a lot here with what she knows out of the blue. Uh so and thankfully it did pay off. So you know what? I'm in with that character.
The destination for May was I think made the journey worth it for her.
Hmm.
Because I guess the frustrating part I had while watching the movie, the early part of the movie, was that she's OPEG. Noah doesn't really have anybody to bounce off of. And when Rocka's introduced, he's more of a mentor than anything. And Noah's kind of like still a blank slate by the hour mark and everything. So I was kind of getting frustrated by that, where it's like they're going to leave the human OPEG over here. And then they're not going to give Noah really an equal plus one because as interesting as Rocka is, he's not Noah's equal either. But then but again, what I'm saying is like why I said in the beginning this movie needs a strong sequel. I think for complete buy-in, I think not just me but others. Why it needs a strong sequel is the fact that like where it ends sets up something even bigger for the
Yeah.
Hmm.
sequel and something better and something that like therein you realize Kingdom was necessary. We got to take a short intermission here. We will come back. Kind of closing thoughts on Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. I almost said Escape right there. Closing thoughts on Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, and then talk about whatever the hell this new Jason Voorhees universe is with Friday the 13th. We'll be back in just a couple of minutes. It's Sleepless with Steve live on YouTube on this Wednesday evening. Finally, Jordan Peele's Nope. And third time's a charm. I mean, Get Out, I don't think needs us any introduction. Get Out was the movie that showed us that Jordan Peele was more than a comedian or more than a comic. He was a filmmaker with something to say, with a real talent for saying it and a real talent for writing. Then you had Us, which proved that he could layer a story with a lot of symbolism, dense ideas, and stuff of that nature too, with a great Lupita Nyong'o performance as well.
Yeah.
But now you have him making a blockbuster, but not a conventional blockbuster. This is a blockbuster with a real brain in its head. This is also a movie that really reminded me of, you know what I kept thinking of with this movie? It kept reminding me, and I think the internet's kind of gone on to like this movie. I know it was really liked when it first came out, and then then people started getting the naysayers saying it's not that good, it's kind of a ripoff. But now I've always liked it. I've seen it twice. This reminded me a lot of Super 8. It reminded me a lot of Super 8.
Yeah.
In some ways too, like we're half of the movie. It's not about figuring out the supernatural activities or the why and when and how. It's about the element of like discovery and trying to beat it and trying to outsmart it and outwit it and the strategy. That's what reminded me a lot of Super 8. And even sort of visually, and I'm not the first to make this comparison, it has a lot of like Amblin qualities to it. Like early Siskel.
I thought some Nope shit was happening right
now.
I was like,
no kidding, right?
He's getting debris thrown into his house right now and everything.
No kidding, right? Here comes the quarter. It reminded me a lot of like these early Amblin movies, like these early Spielberg movies, and that's where I really enjoyed this movie.
Yeah.
Subtextually, it's dense. We can touch on that. I think performance-wise, it's great. And just to end my closing thoughts, I have been scouring the internet, and of course they've gone up in price now. I have found a couple. I really friggin' want a Scorpion King hoodie. I really want a rust-colored Scorpion King hoodie, a crew hoodie too. I want a crew hoodie too. I will look damn good in football season in a Scorpion King hoodie. If you can find one for under $40, send it to your boy. I move over to you, Dom. What's your thoughts, general thoughts on Jordan Peele's Nope?
Fun ass movie, dude. And I didn't even have the pleasure of watching it in a packed theater. I actually watched it last night.
Oh man.
Did you say Joe? You saw it in a pretty active theater, right?
I saw it in an active theater, and I'm not trying to sound mean when I say this. I had a black audience, and it made this movie 30 times better.
Yeah, 100%.
I can see it. I can see it.
Steve, how about
it
you?
sucked because I had that with Get Out, but I didn't have it with Us. But I was so glad to have it again with this movie.
Steve, did you watch it with an active theater?
It wasn't completely active, no. I had maybe about 15 people in it. It wasn't really active. And it was a Thursday night, too, so I was a little underwhelmed about that.
Yeah, mine was pretty dead. It was Tuesday, literally last night. So I'm coming in probably the freshest. And so I didn't even have that going for me, but I was still having a lot of fun for it. Dude, monkeys are scary. That's my biggest takeaway from this movie in terms of like what to be scared of. It's not the sky, it's not space, it's not, the darkness.
What can't be tamed.
Being alone with the power out. No, it's a freaking chimp. That's the scariest thing for me coming out of this movie. Dude, this is the type of movie that doesn't linger too much on its on some deep character driven web of this or that. It is very much a Spielbergian kind of affair. Might be out of his. I haven't seen Us, but I'm willing to take a stab between Us and Get Out and this. This is probably even his most, not generic. That's not the right word, but like
mainstream.
Straight ahead. Yes, mainstream, straight ahead plot. Still a lot of depth underneath it, of course, but in terms of its plot, it's probably the most, the one you could easily most compare to, the most messed up Guess Who's Coming to Dinner that is Get Out. But dude, this is still a really fun movie, and I've said it before. Is the one time I'll say it for this show. I am not a horror dude. I do not like horror, but even I still had a lot of fun with this. Okay, debate. 30-second debate with this. Is this thriller? Is this horror?
Thriller.
Thriller. Yeah, that's pretty much where we need to. We might have to define on what is horror exactly, and that'll take up the rest of the
It's a
show.
little bit
But
of a I think it's
yeah,
sci-fi too. You have
I
to
was gonna
throw in
say I
sci-fi,
kind of thought of it
sci-fi
as
thriller.
a sci-fi. I would still say it's kind of horror, but I thought of it more of
oh
a
yeah,
sci-fi. I thought more of a sci-fi thriller horror film. Like I
yeah.
mean, when I start talking about what I thought of the movie, you'll see why I'm thinking that. Like
Exactly. So I'll leave it there, and I can clearly hear arguments for both. I'm not gonna even gonna spark that any further. But yeah, dude. Even then, I still had a lot of fun with this movie. Every performance here, and so let me get back to what I was saying, which is that the performances here, it's so quality over quantity. Particularly with Steven Yeun, who puts in so much for relatively what little he does. And even his character is split between his younger another actor, who did a great job too
yeah.
in his few scenes. It's all quality. Every single moment is quality. I would love to see a breakdown, an analysis of like, you know, is this scene necessary? That's been kind of my trip lately. Is this scene necessary? Is this really that kind of like thinning the fat out of it? And then every now and then I'll go watch something like the Ten Commandments, like a grand epic, and it's like so much of this is unnecessary, but I still love it. But in any case, yeah, dude, it is tight, it is fun. It's 2 hours and 131 minutes, and that's still quick on its feet. And I definitely love the hell out of this movie. That's my general thoughts, and I'll leave it to you, Joe.
Yeah, man. I mean, look, I'm gonna say this, Jordan Peele. I was, going into this, I'm like, man, like, Get Out, when I was my first year on Sleepless, when we did our top 10 of 2017, Get Out was number 2 on my list. When I did my own show in 2019, Us, I had at number 10. And I was just like, oh man, I'm like, I don't know. I'm like, I don't know about this one, man. Like, ain't no way he's gonna bat 3 for 3. He's gotta fall at some point. I'm hoping it's not with this movie, but we'll see. No, man, Peele, yeah, you're batting 3 for 3 with me. Like, this is an impressive like first 3 movies. Like to me, like I haven't felt this way about a director's start since probably what's the guy's name that made Baby Driver and everything?
Edgar Wright.
Edgar Wright.
Yeah.
Where like I came off his first 3 movies. I'm like, he has his comedy, he has a style and everything. It's like Jordan Peele has the exact same thing going for him. I think this movie really helps me go like, okay, I know what Peele's style looks like. I know what he's gonna do with his movies. There's a lot of subtext to his movies, underneath the horror and everything. And I think Nope kind of just solidifies him on like how it is and how he does his films and everything. This movie juggles a lot of ideas. It plays with a lot of ideas. It throws a lot at you. And not everything works, in my opinion. But for the most part, the main stuff that I needed to work, which was Keke Palmer and Daniel Kaluuya's like relationship as a brother and sister and their whole plot line, that stuff to me like was the heart of the story, and that always kept me engaged. Steven Yeun, Dom, I completely agree with you. He killed it. There's just some other characters that kind of pop up. Like there's a cinematographer character that speaks in fortune cookies, and like that's all his dialogue is. And I was just like, well, that was a character, sure. There's like little
Michael Wincott.
Thank you. Yeah, there's a plot line brought up between Steven Yeun's ranch that he owns and the horse ranch that Daniel Kaluuya, who plays the character named OJ, and Keke Palmer's character, like their ranch have like some rivalry, and it's like talked about for like a second, and it's dropped like it was never a thing, and it's just like there's a lot of stuff being thrown. There's a lot like in this movie, and it's like while like not everything is balanced or juggled that well, Peele knows like, hey, at the end of the day, I need to make sure this story just flows through and ends on a good note. And like that to me, like as convoluted as Us was at times, at the end of the day, I was like, I enjoyed hanging out with that family in that movie, hoping that they would make it through to the end, and like cheering them on and like wanting them to make it out. Like it's like at the end of the day, that movie made me feel that way. And it's the same thing with Get Out, where it's like there wasn't really nothing convoluted with Get Out, but
Back and better than ever, Sleepless with Steve after a little bit of a lengthy intermission, talking politics, talking business, trying to make the show the best that it can be. Good to be with you. We are talking Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. We kind of parlay into closing thoughts here with this movie, too. Uh, I didn't talk much about it. I talked more about it in my review at stevepulaski.com. Joe touched on it early, though. One of the main draws for this movie and this series as a whole has always been the stunning motion capture performances. And they are now at a level, too, that has really gone another level up, I would say. What's fascinating now, and I think The Way of Water, no pun intended, kind of broke the levee for this, is that now motion capture technology has advanced to where the characters can function in water.
Yeah.
And which leads to that climactic bunker sequence, and which makes it all the more thrilling because it's not a case where it might not look as good as The Way of Water. The Way of Water was also more detailed in certain elements, but so it's not a fault of technology. It's just a fault of what they want to focus on, but it's entirely believable. And as Joe said, the visual effects and the motion capture technology on these apes is just absolutely insane and gorgeous and really great to look at too. And there is this sort of pacifistic stance amongst the Eagle Clan characters that I think will kind of continue to be developed and leaned on in the future movies too. But ultimately, though, I think that the 10th time around for this series isn't necessarily empty, but it's a bit familiar. This movie's kind of structured in a way that's similar to Rise and similar to Dawn in a way, almost like it's kind of hybridizing the two. The climax here is really where it's at. I wish it didn't take 2 hours to get there. But I'm curious to see where they go with this for the future installments, because I do think there is something of a foundation on here to build on. And there was a really sarcastic Letterboxd review that I will quote before I give my final star rating, is that maybe this is the best Apes movie we could have expected from the director of 3 Maze Runner movies. No diss to Wes Ball. But,
Wow.
but at any rate, it's 2.5 out of 4 for me, which is also the same rating I gave Dawn of the Planet of the Apes. 2.5 out of 4 stars for me.
So many people I know that would like attack you for that too.
For Dawn or
Dawn,
Kingdom?
For being too low?
Yeah, for being too low. I know a lot of people who say Dawn is.
No, I get it.
Ultimately, I have to go back and reread it to really hammer down what I said about it and how I felt about it. I remember I spent the first paragraph trying to walk myself in linguistical circles, saying wouldn't Dawn come before Rise?
Dude, I was thinking every time a new movie comes out of this reboot series, I do the same exercise. It's hilarious.
I did that. That's the first paragraph of my review of Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, is like going over the hurdles of like, well, how would Dawn come after Rise? But I guess you have to rise in a revolutionary sense,
and then every now and then
dawn of a new day. That's kind of
every now and then I think maybe the middle one should have been called War. I don't.
I really walked myself in linguistical circles.
But you know what? Kingdom makes perfect. There gonna be nothing. No qualms for me here. Kingdom, great name.
Good job, Jason.
Yes.
No ambiguity.
No ambiguity there. We'll go Joe and then Dom for final thoughts on Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes.
I was telling Dom this. I basically told Dom my star rating in the green room when we took our intermission break. But the second half of this movie was like a near 4-star movie for me. That's how much I was loving it. And I was like, dude, I'm loving everything.
And that's with the phone interruptions.
That was with the phone interruptions. And that's even when I saw it the second time. The first half, though, with its pacing and everything, that the issues I was having with it, and just how it took a while to get going, it unfortunately brings it down for me 3 out of 4 stars. And I know it's like, damn, that's such a drastic thing, but it's like, man, it is a long hour of just kind of like, especially that first 20 minutes. I'm kind of just like, I get it. We got to set things up. We got to get things going. But damn, I feel like there could be a better way of doing this. Now, like we've said through this review, and Steve has mentioned it, maybe in retrospect, I'll appreciate this movie even more down the line, like I have with Rise. We'll see what happens once we conclude this trilogy of films. But hey, I had a great time with this movie regardless. I think it still is worth going to see it on the big screen because of how beautiful the CGI looks, and also just the setting, the scenery, everything about this movie just looked so damn good. If there's one thing I'm looking forward to, as much credit as I'm giving the CGI and motion capture right now, I can't wait to get this movie on Blu-ray and watch the special feature of turning the motion capture off and just watching the actors in the mocap suits with the little like cranes that
Is that
they
a
wear.
thing?
That's
Wait, is that a thing?
They announced that before the movie came out in theaters. They said a special edition that will be featured on the Blu-ray is you can watch this movie without
The whole movie.
the whole movie without the apes. You'll see them in their motion capture suits the entire time.
That's interesting.
I have to watch the movie.
That's
like that.
insane.
Like they said, there's like certain scenes like when they're scaling like the building, it's gonna look like monkeys. But when they're talking, or like, you know, when it's like action sequences and it's definitely the actor there and it's like a camera following them, it's gonna be their motion capture suit, like just in the scene. And I'm like, oh, that's so cool. I actually want to know what that looks like. So hey man, shout out to bringing awesome bonus features back on Blu-ray. Maybe I'll give you a whole star up for that. But in the meantime, 3 out of 4 stars for Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes.
Yeah, this is that's okay. Well, 5 out of 4 stars for the Blu-ray automatically. If I can watch a whole movie like that, that's legitimately really, really cool. I haven't bought physical media in like forever, and I would actually do that for if it truly is what it says it is, where I can literally the whole movie front to back. I would probably buy that. No, dude. The girl is a Mary Sue. 1 out of 4 stars. No, no, seriously, it's a 3 out of 4 stars movie for me. It's solid. The highs, I was riding high on those highs. Maybe not 4 out of 4 with like Joe, but it was like, okay, we're back, baby. We are so back. And that's how I felt with the second half of this movie. Just like both of y'all were saying. The first half it's not a slog. That's the thing though. It's not bad. It's not horrible, but
Yeah,
it does
feel
it has emptiness. It has the three of us just piling on it, you know, it can come off that way. But no, I think we're all in agreement that there's a lot of lost opportunity of really, because like the weakest character here winds up being Noah to me. Every other character here like shines really damn well with the little screen time in comparison. But you know, there I guess there is a beauty in becoming like in being the more of the reflective protagonist or whatever the literary term is there. But regardless, yeah, 3 out of 4 stars. Very solid foundation for the next 2, because right, they're going to do another trilogy here, and I'm okay with it because just the fact that this series this reboot series hasn't had any like strikeouts is really impressive to me. And yeah, I'm rooting for this reboot franchise. And it's like, yeah, I respect something that can come in every 3 to 5 years, do its thing, make its money, and also be really profound. Like, dude, I'm sure there's like anthropologists and sociologists where it's like, and historians, which is like, I didn't study any of that in school, but like that's kind of like my
to the theater.
yeah, it's like that's like my line of thinking where it's like, this is really cool. I like how like civilizations can like morph and transform, and like, oh yeah, the bastardization of a really cool ideology. Very New Vegas. I think I'm gonna reinstall New Vegas. 3 out of 4 stars for me. Pretty damn solid.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Appreciate you sending that link. You sent it in the chat, Joe, about the motion. What's that going to be known as? The motion capture version, I wonder?
I don't know. Like the motionless capture version.
The mocap release?
I don't know what they're
mocap of the Planet of the Apes?
I don't know what they're going to call it yet, but it is like, I love the way...
The mo-cut?
I love the way Russ Ball like just describes it. It's for geeks like us. It's going to be a first, and we're all excited for it. It's like, yeah, no, like for real. Like I would love to see that.
I'm excited for it. that I might actually watch. It gives you a good reason to go back to it, if nothing else. Yeah. Because like motion capture is one of the technologies I think that not a lot of people outside of film nerds really know. You know what I mean? Like how they actually do these movies. Andy Serkis did a good job of like really promoting that aspect of the Apes movies too. But I remember like the most famous example, or the original example, not maybe the most famous, but was The Polar Express with Tom Hanks. And that movie, for as great as that movie is, that movie's 20 years old as of this year. You feel old. The Polar Express, though, you go back to it, and the problem with motion capture of that era, and it wasn't until about Rise of the Planet of the Apes where they kind of figured out a way with it, is you get the dead syndrome, is
Mm.
that all the characters have a hard time. They don't look as expressive. Another movie that had this problem that was all motion capture was that really shitty. It's one of the worst Disney movies in the last 20 years, financially and just critically and just optically, is Mars Needs Moms. Was another one that was all motion capture. And on top of a fucking awful premise, was just a really bad movie and didn't look that great either. Um, but then you got like Rise of the Planet of the Apes came out the same year as Mars Needs Moms, I believe, and it really kind of like set the stage. It reminded me, it set the stage and looking different. It reminded me a lot of when The Incredibles came out. When The
Mm.
Incredibles came out in 2004, and it was like Pixar finally figured out how to animate humans. They
Yeah.
finally figured out how to, because people forget that. Like go back and watch the first two Toy Stories and remember, look how Sid looked and Andy looked. They did not know how they just felt too large. Their heads were huge. And then like The Incredibles came out and it's like, okay, they finally figured out a way. Granted, they're kind of like, they're superheroes, so they're not conventionally built, but that was the movie where it's like, okay, they finally figured out how to animate humans in a believable way. And then their next movie was Cars. But at any rate, we'll chat on this real quick. Not a ton to say about this, but definitely something to bring up though. If nothing else, it's got a cool little graphic to go with it too. But Friday the 13th has been an interesting series. And I mentioned this to you guys today too. Is that, it's been 15 years since the last Friday the 13th movie and 14 years for a night since the last Nightmare on Elm Street movie. And when you think about that, the reason I even bring that up is because, the tired and there's truth in it. The tired trope of horror is that there's too many sequels. But it's been a while. It's been a while since we've gotten any movies featuring the two biggest names in slasher movie history, in Freddy Krueger and Jason Voorhees. I was always more of a Jason fan. That's me. I like Freddy, but I grew up more with the Jason movies, as weird as that is to say. But when those movies came out, both those remakes came out like in succession. Friday the 13th came out in 2009, and then A Nightmare on Elm Street came out in 2010. Famously, it was the first time ever that Freddy Krueger was not portrayed by Robert Englund. He was portrayed by Jackie Earle Haley. And those movies felt like they were setting up future sequels. I remember vividly in the early 2010s, and I still would have loved to see it, is that they were talking about a Friday the 13th movie set in the wintertime. They were talking about a Friday the 13th movie like set in Alaska
That's
or
literally my
something.
dream.
Like, and it made me think. I remember in high school at the time thinking, like, there's not many. It's like one of the exercises I like to do is like how many country songs mention snow. There's not many horror movies that are set in the winter time.
Yeah.
Now there's Christmas horror, or that are not affiliated with Christmas. They're just set in the winter time just because. And that would have been a really cool sequel. But if I remember correctly, Warner Brothers kind of dicked around with the rights. Then they relinquished the rights in like the mid 2010s back to Paramount. They get the rights reverted back to Paramount, I think. And then Paramount didn't know what Paramount for. It was funny because in like the mid to late 2010s, they were really struggling as a studio. But it was like, I was surprised. I'm like, then like they were really struggling. They needed the hit and they eventually got it in Maverick. But I'm like, why didn't they commission a Friday the 13th movie? Why didn't they try to get the Trey and Matt to do a South Park movie or another Jackass movie? Like, they have so many properties. It was weird for them to be struggling to the extent that they were. But then eventually, it really just, like, it faded from the consciousness then. And now all of a sudden it's 15 years later. We haven't seen a Friday the 13th movie. Not that that's a horrible thing, I will say, but Horror Inc., who is the original owners of the Friday the 13th film franchise, they are going forward and expanding what is now known as the Jason universe. If you see the graphic, I don't know if you could pull it up, Joe, but it's an angry looking Jason mask, and universe is spelled, the I in universe is a 1 and the first E is a 3. So it's not going
Great
to be
start.
known. I was gonna say it's stylish. It's very modern. I don't hate the logo. I really don't hate the logo. I'm like, yeah, maybe I might make an okay T-shirt. I think the logo is decent, but they came out and said that they really haven't concretized anything, but they are going to reboot the Friday the 13th film franchise, as there's also a Peacock expanded prequel series coming in conjunction with
With A24,
A24,
yeah.
which is the eyebrow raiser. It's called Crystal Lake. Um, which is funny. Which you know what's great about that is like we're in the for the last few years we've been in the day and age of rebooted shows and movies, and they like the grittier reboot title is now become like a thing. It's like when they rebooted the Fresh Prince of Bel Air and it's just called Bel Air.
Hmm.
Like there's something. I even think we kicked around when we brought Sleepless with Steve back, just calling it Sleepless. I don't know what it is about. Like I think it's the hashtag era.
That's right.
I
Yeah.
think it's the hashtag era of things that everybody wants things shorter. But the VP of Horror Inc., Robbie Barsamian, said, "We're focused on honoring the legacy while elevating the fan experience and appealing to today's horror audience as we develop new ways to watch, interact, and engage with Jason Universe." Not the J, it's with Jason Universe. I think that's kind of funny there. So there's not really any concretion on what this is going to look like. This is just the almost like announcement before the announcement, but it's billed as a new era in the Friday the 13th franchise. My only wish, I mean, I got two wishes. One, set one of the movies in the winter time. We never got that.
Oh, Jason got him, dude. The universe.
Oh shit.
It was a night
Oh
movie. Friday the
damn.
13th wasn't that
Oh,
good.
there
I
we
would
go.
have still watched the sequel. Oh Jesus, I lagged out. I'm sorry.
You're good.
That's
I don't know
okay.
where I don't know where I left off, but
You said set it in the winter because we never got that movie, and then that's where you stopped.
set it in the winter because we never got that, and I was always very sad about that. And I would say the second thing is really, really focus on making the first movie very good.
Yeah.
Don't
That
set
should
up
be the goal of every universe movie.
And not even Marvel has been even during its first, what do you call it? Phase? Yeah, phase. Even in the first phase, every phase of Marvel has been, ups and downs, right? And that is the model that everyone tries to emulate because that's the model that is the most successful. I'm trying to think really, Joe, what of these other universe types movies, what is the most successful? It's got to be Marvel, right? But in terms of quality, consistent quality, what are we looking at here? And I'm not just talking about like franchises, right? I'm
It
talking
might
about.
be, honestly, it might be the Apes movies at some point once we see where this new set
I think
goes.
you're right.
But yeah, I mean, the most successful, and if you want to say quality, would be maybe that first few phases of Marvel. One could argue that, like, second phase, whatever, if you want to get all nerdy about it. But
Mhm.
yeah, the most successful definitely there. The most blunder of them all was the Universal Dark Universe, which just fell flat on its face at the start.
That's
Um,
what I kept listening from
it,
Twitter.
it
It's like, yeah,
it's honestly crazy to think that like studios are still trying to chase that universe pipe dream when Marvel's even having trouble with it right now. Now, granted,
That's
like
true.
there's been stories coming out that like they are taking a step back and they're like, hey, you know what? We're gonna take our time with it again. We're gonna do what we did at the start and take things slow, but we'll see how that turns out. But it's just crazy to think like after DC flopped. Well, not flop, but after DC. Well, I mean, shit. I mean, with these last few movies, yeah.
yeah.
Um, After the Dark Universe just ran out of the gate face first and fell on its own shit. And then Marvel, which successfully made it past the finish line, but decided to do a victory lap and is having trouble with this victory lap right now. It's crazy to think that we're still chasing this pipe dream of creating a universe when you got stuff that's being successful at the box office and getting critical acclaim. Like, I mean, okay, to be fair, I was about to say Top Gun Maverick. I'm like, but that is a sequel. That's a legacy sequel. I'm like, everybody's excited for Furiosa, and that's technically a in-universe movie. Like, so I'm like, well, shit, maybe we're not too far off of it. Maybe I just shot my own point on the foot.
No. I
Hey, man, look, just make a good movie, like Steve said, and then go from there.
honestly, we could just end the show right there. That is the heart of it. Just make a good movie every time, and,
Yeah.
and you'll be fine. And I think you're right. It's like Apes is like the anti that whole model.
Yeah.
Truly, or at least the reboot is, right?
Right.
Even the originals where it's like, yeah, that was a more varied quality, but not that I've seen all of them. And I guess we're just gonna skip Tim Burton for a bit. But like, yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see how they meld? Because I'm sorry, did they mention in the article of like they're gonna add in other horror icons,
No,
right?
I
That
think
No, it's a
it
general announcement.
this is what I think it has to do with is that they're gonna put Jason because Dom, you can probably remember this because you play video games and go into much of it as I do. I don't know if Steve knows this. He might
little
know this
bit, a
because
little
of
bit.
Friday the 13th in general.
Joe, I think you play more video games than me. I just like
Probably.
read more about
I mean,
them,
look at what
which
background I
is
have right now. Like, it's like um
You're both nerds.
we are. Friday the 13th, the video game, like, was an indie game. And that's because the license
Yeah.
was just in limbo for like the longest
right,
time.
right.
And then now that the license got bought by, I think, Universal now, or is it what would you say it was, Steve? Because
It's Paramount's property.
okay, and I think Universal's the one kind of overseeing it right now, which is why the prequel series is going to Peacock in conjunction with A24. God, that is a long fucking sentence.
This thing's been passed around like a blunt.
um, don't smoke weed around Jason though. They want to go back, and I think they want to try to get a video game franchise again going with Friday the 13th because that game was pretty successful. It was like for a $20 video game, it was fun. They want to franchise the character out. There's a game called Multiverses. It's a bunch of Warner Brother characters.
But it's
fighting
defunct
each
now, I
other,
think.
Fighting each other in Super Smash Bros. Style, and it's being re-released. It was in a beta and everything, but it's being re-released next week. And Jason has been added to the roster, and he'll be playable starting next week. And it's just like I don't.
Wait, that game is still going? Is that game is still going?
They're re-release. So it was in beta, which nobody knew about, and now they're officially releasing the game next week with Jason and Agent Smith being the two newest characters they're adding into the game.
Okay.
So yeah, they want to. What it sounds like what they want to do, and what I'm trying to get at is they want Jason. The Jason universe isn't going to be just other slashers coming in like what I would dream of course, is another Freddy versus Jason. No, they just want to franchise him out to other things. They want him in fucking video games. They want him in TV shows. They want him in movies because they say interact. So it's just like, what do you mean by the interaction thing? And from what I can gather, it's the video game aspect.
That's definitely what it sounds like. That's
Bro,
definitely what it sounds like.
if LeBron shows up in one of these movies, hell yeah. Because he's in multiverses.
We're gonna get Slasher Jam. We're gonna get Slasher Jam over here. Gonna be playing fucking lacrosse or something. But I'll watch anything Friday the 13th. I'll watch anything Friday the 13th. And I mean, I think the one thing that they'll have going for them is there will be interest because it's not like there's been an oversaturation. This is not the Exorcist universe or something like that. This is something that's been dormant, for lack of a better term, outside of those video games. Outside of those video games and the playable characters, there really hasn't been much Friday the 13th. It's just been riding off of everlasting appeal. So I think that they have something there. I want to revisit this when they concretize exactly what the hell they plan to do.
For sure.
Because this was kind of a general announcement that like, hey, this exists. To go back to Dom's point though, to go back to Dom's question, then we'll end things. You asked, are they going to bring other horror movie characters together? You know what? Like, it's funny you say that too because the only thing more famous than Freddy versus Jason was the complete shit show of how that movie had to come about. They were talking about that movie in the 90s, in like the early 90s, making that movie. And they, for whatever reason, one thing after another, it was a rights nightmare from hell trying to get those two together. I don't know why the two studios couldn't have just teamed up and figured out a way to incorporate these two characters, but it was like a legal back. That's why we never got there's a comic book, I think, but there was talk after Freddy versus Jason, are we ever going to get Freddy versus Jason versus Ash from Evil Dead? And then there was all these fan things about Freddy versus Michael and everything like that, but it was like if you read about
Chucky was going to be the next one.
That was another one too. Like if you go back and really read about what a motherfucker it was to get Freddy versus Jason made, you'll realize why we never got anything else like that ever again. And Freddy versus Jason is like, decent on a good day, but we'll end things here. Next week, really looking forward to talking Furiosa, a Mad Max saga, one of my most anticipated movies of the year. Super excited to see what this movie holds for us. I rewatched Mad Max Fury Road because Catherine hadn't seen it too, and I wanted to rewatch it again before this. And man, I don't think it's an exaggeration to say that is probably the best action movie of the last decade. I don't think that's an exaggeration at all. I think it's one of the, it will be the definitive, one of the definitive blockbusters of the generation. And I think that even on the second go around for me, it's still an immaculately made production. Nobody does it like George Miller. And I don't know if anybody ever will. And that's kind of the sad part, but also the great part because we're going back to this universe too. And I also saw on Letterboxd something called Mad Max: The Wasteland.
Yeah,
So
that's gonna be his next movie after this
that's
one.
his next one.
Yeah.
That's his next one. He's 79 years old. Like I said, I hope the runway is still long for George Miller because
I
I
think
feel
that's
like
gonna be
he's
his last movie too. I think he's gonna end it with that.
probably will be his last, I would think. Only to, like I was almost half I was going to see the manager at the theater this weekend. I was almost going to ask him, not jokingly, for the poster of Furiosa. I was going to see if he'd give it to me. The only thing that I kind of wish now that they would have put on it is from the director of Happy Feet.
Two.
Happy Feet 2 written out TWO too.
Stop it.
I kind of wish they would have put that on there. That's a cruel omission. We're reviewing Furiosa Mad Max Saga next week. Cannot wait to talk about it too. Looking forward to that. Joe, I cannot tell you how much I love the rebrand of the show too. I have the
thank you,
YouTube
yeah.
tab
Looks
open.
good.
Which is probably why my internet connection was a little unstable there for a second because I was also cross-watching this just to look at the beautiful job you did on the show too, with the look and presentation. So kudos to you. Really appreciate that. We'll be back next week though. In the meantime, enjoy your Memorial Day weekend. That goes for you two as well. Have a safe Memorial Day weekend. We'll be back here same time, same place next Wednesday with the review of Furiosa, a Mad Max saga. Until then, for Joe Viso, Dominic Guanzon, and yours truly, this has been Sleepless with Steve.